the Eagles flew me up to Philadelphia, but they didn't even speak to me. I'm like, I just went up there, I sat on the curb, and it's like I was there, but I didn't understand that I was just being bait.
All right, listen up, everybody. I understand your obsession with takeout and fancy brunches and late night delivery. Luckily, so does today's sponsor. Food lovers meet the U.S. Bank Altitude Go Visa Signature Card. Now, with this credit card, you get 4 times the points on restaurants, deliveries, takeout orders, and dine-in brunches, lunches, or dinners. Plus, Altitude Go gets you 2 times the points on groceries, yes, even delivery, streaming services, and gas or EV charging station pit stops. Visit usbank.com/altitudego to apply and learn how you can earn 20,000 bonus points. You deserve a credit card that gives you more and more and even more. You deserve Altitude Go, NerdWallet's 2022 Best of Awards winner for Best Credit Card for Dining Benefits. Apply to become an Altitude Go card holder at usbank.com/altitudego. The creditor and issuer of this card is U.S. Bank National Association, pursuant to a license from Visa USA Incorporated. Some restrictions may apply. Hey everybody, what's up? Trey Wingo here. Welcome into another episode of Half Forgotten History. Look, when you have first round picks, you want to hit home runs. Like, for example, the Dallas Cowboys in a span of 3 straight drafts in the first round took Michael Irvin, Troy Aikman, and Emmitt Smith. That's a pretty good run. The Colts also went on a similar run. In 1998, they selected Peyton Manning first overall. And with their first round selection in 1999, they took this week's guest, running back Edgerrin James. And one of the reasons I bring up the Cowboys, because they had the triplets of Michael, Troy, and Emmitt. And the next iteration of the triplets ended up being in Indianapolis Colts with Peyton Manning, Marvin Harrison, and this week's guest, Edgerrin James. Enjoy the conversation with the Hall of Fame running back.
The thing about football, which is great, is it's a team sport, right? And you obviously believed in yourself from day one. But I want to read to you a run of the Indianapolis first-round draft picks, which I found absolutely fascinating here. 1996, Marvin Harrison. 1997, Tarek Glenn. 1998, Peyton Manning. 1999, Edgerrin James. 2001, Reggie Wayne. That's a pretty good run of first-round picks to sort of be a part of.
Yeah, no, that was great. It was they did a great job of assembling a great team with great personalities, great people that actually mesh. Because you can always get good talent, but you don't get the right people, it doesn't mesh. And that's one thing about us. We all had the same thing in common.
And again, I left out Rob Morris in 2000. I mean, he was fine, but the other ones were better. I just said that was a pretty good run you guys were on.
Yeah.
We'll get into your time with the Colts and all that kind of stuff. But I want to start, like, when did you think, hey, man, I really thought I think I might be able to play this game and maybe go to college and get a scholarship? Was there a moment for you that's like, oh, I think I can do this?
Well, I think when you're good in Pop Warner, and then it carries over to high school, and as you continue to excel, and I've always played against older people. In Pop Warner, you played, I was always the youngest. And then when I finally got into high school, where it was 11th grade, and I started playing with people my age group, or I was still somewhat young, but you start seeing like, man, I really can dominate in this game. And because it was so effortless for me. The game of football was always easy for me. And then once I got to the University of Miami, that's when the light clicked, like, man, this right here is really easy. I can really take this somewhere. At first you really don't know because you're playing against your peers, you're playing against the people you grew up with, so you don't really have a measuring stick. But then when you start looking at all the different rankings, and these publications have these guys that are ranked so high, and you out there dominating them, and you're like, hey, hold up, something's not right. Or maybe, I don't know who's doing the judging or who's doing the rating, but these guys are supposed to be a top this or top that, and I'm not even rated or ranked, and I'm dominating them. So that's what turned the light on for me.
It's funny you say that. We had Greg Olson on in an earlier show, and he talked about how intimidated he was the first time he played on the practice squad, or the team to get everybody ready. The scout team to get everybody ready for the U. And he was like, "Here I am going up as a freshman against Sean Taylor, all these kind of guys."
Yeah.
What was it like for you to be there at the U and just understand that the whole thing was still, it was such a brand, It was a brand. Being a part of the U was a brand that you wanted to be associated with.
I think everybody went there with knowing that hey, football has to work. I think that's where the mentality starts. Football has to work. Football means everything to everybody. When you get in a situation like that, it'll make or break you. You know, you see guys that's coming from these situations that this game means a lot more to them than just going out there having fun. That's where it starts at. And then once you're playing at University of Miami, once you start competing, you realize, hey, this right here is this stuff is serious. And it forces you to get in the gym. It forces you to work out because if you don't, you know, it's gonna show. And our practices were prime time. You know, practices were tougher than the games. And if you don't do your stuff in practice, you got to walk around campus with that. You know, you got to live that moment. And that's there's no reason you want to walk around campus as a football player, but not doing what it takes or representing what it takes to be a football player.
How much swag did you guys have back then? Like, what was it like putting on that uniform and knowing we're pretty much going to do whatever we want to do?
Oh yeah, that was all a part of it. You know, part of the game is intimidation, confidence, and when you have intimidation with the confidence, you know, it automatically makes the other guy like look up to you. But sometimes it gives them if you cringe a little, that gives them confidence because they're like, oh, I didn't know they were this and that. So you have to be exactly what you put on to be. And we got so much swag, and the way we do it, we have fun with it. You know, we're a small school, so we stuck together. We was always together. But we're in probably the best city for college athletes to have fun, to get the total package. You know, because we got a chance to be around celebrities. We were the celebrities. You know, we were part of that. So you're living that life and that culture to where it's like, man, you want to do well because when you leave campus and you go out into the city, you know, you have to represent the city. You have the whole city on your back. You have the whole state on your back. Everybody that's into the University of Miami, the rebellious, you know, Hurricanes, that everybody against all odds. That's us.
Was there a guy that you played with at the U that didn't make it, that you were surprised that didn't make it? When you played with him, you're like, damn, this guy is one of the best players I've ever seen. And for whatever reason, it didn't pan out.
There were a lot of guys, but a lot of time when they make it, it was self-inflicted. Yeah. You know, the talent was there, but they couldn't handle the total package. You know, it's easy to say, hey, I'm in the city of Miami, and I can go enjoy myself. I can have fun, and there's temptation, and some people get taken over by temptation. So when you see somebody made it, you have a lot of respect for them because you knew what they went through. It's hard to be a 18-year-old, 19-year-old that's treated treated like a celebrity and keep the discipline to go to school, to do the training, to make all these different appearances and appointments. You know, it's really tough. So I know a lot of guys that should have made it, but the elements took them over.
How much, you know, now that we're in this NIL era of college athletes, you know, name, image, and likeness, how much NIL money would your team have made in the 90s with the things that you were doing and the way that you guys played?
Yeah, it's hard to say, but, you know, we were during that era, we were becoming super popular and everything was rolling, but I always question that, and that's one thing I speak about in my book, is because you really don't know if the hunger is going to be there. You know, it's like the NFL is, hey, I can take my family out of poverty. I can take my life to another level if I make it to the NFL. I don't have. I'm driven because I don't have. But then all of a sudden, you know, you come and you start having these distractions. I think a lot of time it could have been a distraction because these companies and these businesses, you know, they want their appearances. They want you to show up. They want you to do what you're supposed to do to uphold your end of the bargain. And so what you ready to give football your all? So it's one of those questions that I really don't know that I could say would have been good or bad. You know, it would be to be determined.
Well, listen, your book, which we'll get into, great title, From Gold Teeth to Gold Jacket. It's a tremendous title. Yeah. We'll talk a lot about that book a little bit later. I do love that title. But, you know, just being in Miami, listen to you talk, how much did that atmosphere prepare you for the stuff that you knew you were going to have to deal with on a professional level that maybe somebody else coming from a different school didn't already have that experience?
I don't think no other place can prepare you like Miami. You know, you think about the city of Miami. You think about Miami as the off-season hub for every athlete, every celebrity, everybody comes through Miami. So you and then you don't have a clock. Miami has no clock. It's 1
It's like a
o'clock,
Vegas
2 o'clock.
casino. There's like a
Yeah,
Vegas casino. There are no clocks.
there are no clocks. So whatever's your vice, you'll be exposed. Miami will expose any vice that you have. And when you're young, you really don't know, and you're away from your parents, you're away from the people that kind of molded you. It's pretty difficult. So when you're able to overcome that, the next level is just how you're going to deal with the financials. The financials are the things that you have to learn. That's the only difference between the NFL and being at Miami at the early age. It's the financials, because you have access, you're going to have fun, you're in the middle of everything. Any guy that goes to University of Miami, they usually know somebody, or we have, like, our brotherhood is so tight to where our freshmen, sophomore, they're always welcome. Once you become a Hurricane, you're welcome to come to the event. You're welcome to hang out. If I see you out in the city or whatever, I'm going to make sure you're good. And it's always been kicked down like that. There's a tradition, like an unwritten rule. You take care of another Hurricane when you see them, and everybody upholds that end of the bargain. And it's not just talk; it's real. You go somewhere, if you see somebody, they're gonna. It's not like they're gonna just let you go for bad. They're gonna, because they see themselves in you. They say, "Hey, I used to be that guy," and Michael Irvin tucked me up under his wing, or Edgerrin James tucked me up under his wing. And so they're going to continue doing those things. And that's how we keep tradition going.
Well, listen, that brotherhood propelled you to be the 4th overall pick in the 1999 draft.
Yeah.
I remember there's a lot of controversy about the Colts taking you over Ricky Williams in that same draft class. What do you remember about that draft experience and talking with Ricky, or did you talk to Ricky at all about who would be the first running back taken?
Well, Ricky's actually in the book. We actually speak on that in the book. I got a chapter that's kind of dedicated to that draft, because that was an important part of my journey. And throughout the whole process, I think it was more. It was entertaining, and it was more so for everybody else, because I didn't know Ricky. Ricky didn't know me, and anybody that knows me, I wasn't gung ho on being the first running back or this bad. I was just happy to say I'm going to the NFL. So my appreciation just to be an NFL player was greater than trying to become. I'm not a spoiled person. I didn't grow up with a silver spoon. So I appreciate the things I get. And during that process, I guess it made a good story, and it was good to, you had to build something around every situation.
Sure.
So I understood the whole thing, but I never gave into it, because I understood my purpose. I'm happy to be going to the NFL. If I would have went behind Ricky, it would have made no difference to me. You wouldn't see no complaints or anything. I think it's because everybody thought that Ricky was going to go first, and the media tells the people what to think or what to do, and nobody really knew about me. But when it comes to business, you have business people in organizations, and the Colts, they run their organization like a true business. And when you're running your operation like that, you're going to do what's best for the organization. So they did their homework, and they made sure that they really evaluated both people. And for their situation, I was best for them.
When did you know that the Colts were going to take you? Like, did you get it? Were you getting an indication all along that you thought you might go there? Or, sort of take me through the draft process for you. What teams were you hearing from? Where were you thinking you might land?
I really didn't know where I was going to land, because the draft, it took a turn, the weeks leading up to it. But prior to it, I was always told, I said, man, I'm going to be one of the top 2 backs taken. And so I was cool with number 2, number 3, it didn't matter. And you had, I think, the Eagles. The Eagles flew me up to Philadelphia. I think they was the number 3 pick, but they didn't even speak to me. I'm like, I just went up there, I sat on the curb, and it's like I was there, but I didn't understand that I was just being bait. I really didn't know.
Wait. They flew you up to Philadelphia. They didn't even talk to you?
Yeah, like I didn't do anything. Like I went and I found myself sitting on the curb, and so but it was all part of the draft process. I guess the smoke and mirrors process.
Right.
Because I didn't speak to anybody, but the media knew I was in town. So maybe that was their way of saying, hey, we might pick Edgerrin James. I don't know, but I went to Philadelphia. I went to the facility, and it was nothing really. It was like, I'm like, why am I here? But I never knew how the process went. And then I really wouldn't take no other trips. I think I went by the Dolphins facility once. We had a coach from the University of Miami. He was at the Dolphins, and he was like, he's always saying, "Hey, the Dolphins are going to try to trade up to get you," And that'll be home. I'll be right in the same city I played college. So I was like, okay, that's cool. And then you start looking at the draft and how everything's shaping up. Then all of a sudden, the Colts, they trade Marshall Faulk. I don't know how it was a couple of days or I don't know, prior to the draft, they traded Marshall Faulk.
Yeah.
And so now it's like, okay, yeah, the Colts are going to get a running back. And so now we have another team that put their name in the hat. So we're just paying attention to everything. But then I started reflecting. I went to Indianapolis to the combine. I never spoke with the coach. The coach didn't talk to me. I don't know anybody at the Colts. So I didn't think that I would be the one that would be going to the coach because I never talked to him. And so and within the process, I thought maybe you would know, or they would sit down with you when they really want you, But that wasn't the game plan for them. And so they did a great job of keeping it close to the vest.
See, this is why I call this part of the year in the NFL the lying season. Like what you just said sums it up perfectly. Like the Eagles went out of their way to fly you up there to make a big show out of it and didn't even say a word to you. And then the team that drafted you didn't even come in contact with you. I always tell people at this time, if a coach or a GM or a scout or someone, if their lips are moving, they're lying because they don't want anybody to know what they're actually doing at this time of the year.
It's a great chess move, and I understand it. And as the years go on, you reflect and you sit back and say, well, when you start looking at all these people, oh, this team is this. I say, I don't really think so because I was part of that whole thing. It's like they'll fly you up and have you sitting on the curve too, So it's one of those things where, it's all part of the process. But I understand why, because you can't tip your hat and then somebody else take your man.
Yeah. Well, listen, they played to perfection because you landed in the best possible spot. So why don't we take our first break here? When we come back with Hall of Famer Edgerrin James, we'll talk about his initial reactions to Indianapolis and how he rode that into his Hall of Fame career. We're coming back with the Edge right after this. Welcome to our newest weekly segment, Trey's Trends, presented for the people by Caesars Sportsbook. Look, Caesars Sportsbook is the greatest betting app of all time. Why? Because Caesars makes everyone feel like an emperor. When you place your bets, win or lose, you earn more with Caesars Rewards. Dining, getaways, stays, so many perks, people. You see, let me explain what that means. In our world, Caesar isn't the only emperor. You see, there's no apostrophe in that spelling. Why is that? Because everyone who downloads the app will be treated like an emperor. We are all Caesars. Caesars Sportsbook is the only sportsbook app with Caesars Rewards, which means win or lose, you earn reward credits every time you wager. Redeem them for things like sports tickets, dining, getaways, and so much more. Presented for the people by Caesars Sportsbook.
Guys, the NBA's regular season is now officially in the books. We turn our attention to the postseason. At Caesars Sportsbook, the Phoenix Suns are the favorites to emerge as NBA champs, holding the Larry O'Brien Trophy at plus 270. The Suns are looking for their first title in franchise history and completed the regular season with a league best record of 64-18. The reigning champion Bucks have the second lowest odds at plus 475 as they're looking to become the first team to repeat as NBA champs since the Golden State Warriors did it in 2017 and 2018. Right behind those teams are the New Jersey Nets at 650, but they will need to clear the play-in tournament to make the playoffs. The Nets last won a title in 1976 where they were in the old ABA, and some guy named Dr. J was the team's 25-year-old superstar. Only two other clubs are at plus 1,000 or better to win it all, the Warriors at plus 950 and the Celtics at plus 1,000. Find more of Trey's Trends at Caesar Sports on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and on YouTube.
21 or older, 18 or older in D.C. must be physically present in Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, Maryland, Michigan, Nevada, New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, or Washington, D.C. Sports betting is void in Georgia, Hawaii, Ohio, and Utah, and other states where prohibited. Know when to stop before you start. Gambling problem in Illinois, Maryland, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, West Virginia. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, crisis counseling and referral services can be accessed by calling 1-800-GAMBLER, that's 1-800-426-2537, or in West Virginia, visit 1-800-GAMBLER.net. Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. Colorado, DC, Nevada, call 1-800-522-4700.
Indiana, call 1-800-9-WITH-IT. Iowa, call 1-800-BETS-OFF. Louisiana, call 1-877-770-STOP. In Michigan, call 1-800-270-7117. Tennessee, call or text TN Redline at 1-800-889-9789. Virginia, call 1-888-532-3500. Copyright 2002, Caesars Entertainment. Gambling problem in New York? Call 1-877-8-HOPE-NEW YORK or text HOPE New York 467-369.
All right, back on Half Forgotten History with the Hall of Famer Edgerrin James. So the Colts played their hand to perfection. You had no idea they were going to take you. You land there. What was your initial reaction when you realized, all right, they have a quarterback, they have a great wide receiver in Marvin Harrison. I might be going to a really good situation here.
Well, it's how do you say you're going to a really good situation when the team is 3-13?
Fair.
You
Accurate.
really don't know. Yeah, you really don't know what you're going to. It's like, okay, yeah, you're going to play with Peyton Manning, but Peyton wasn't established as an NFL quarterback yet. You're going with Marvin Harrison. I knew a Marv from the Big East Syracuse days, so that's like, okay, yeah, that's Marv that you're on the team with. But you're still looking at, hey, this team was 3-13, so we have a lot of work to do. And a lot of times, you look at it, if you get drafted high, you're gonna go to a terrible team, But that wasn't the case. It was the fact that this team had all the pieces put in place, and I could have been the missing link, And once I got there, from day one, it just hit the ground running. Everybody had the same mindset. It was just work. Everybody wanted to work. I'm coming from the University of Miami, so I still want to represent. I still want to do what we do and play at a high level. And football is everything. And then you run into a guy like Peyton Manning, and you realize football is everything. And then you get out there with Marvin Harrison, and you realize he's from Philadelphia, and when he steps foot in Indianapolis, football is everything. Everything just started adding up, and we just went to work.
Well, listen, you could make a very compelling argument. You were the missing piece to the puzzle because you were 3-13. The Colts were 3-13 before you got there. And the year you got there, you run for 1,500 yards, and you guys are 13-3. I mean, that was one of the fastest turnarounds in NFL history. In the middle of that rookie season, when did you sort of realize, hey, we have everything we need here?
I still didn't realize. I just was playing football. I really didn't. I didn't even know the magnitude of things because it was just the game. It was the same game I've always played. I didn't really I didn't know about stats, records, this and that. I'm like, I just want to hit my incentives. I just want to be one of the best to ever play. And I just want to do my job. And when it came to the overall team, I let the organization deal with that. Like, let's play to win, and let's play hard. And that's all we did. We just continued to do that. And I think we're all young, and we're just doing what we love to do, and everything else kind of just take care of itself.
You sound a lot like Peyton when we're talking about football here. I mean, like you have a no BS, all business approach here. Is that one of the reasons that you and Peyton click so easily because you both have that same mindset?
Yeah, I absolutely believe that because you want to win, they want to win. You want to be the best, they want to be the best, and everybody's selfless. Everybody's saying, man, I'm going to do what's best for the team. I want to go out here and put this work in. It's like if we have to pass the ball, let's pass the ball. If we have to run the ball, let's run the ball. Let's do what it takes. We had a game against, I think, Green Bay. I think it was Peyton and Favre. It was a big time matchup.
Yeah.
And I know Peyton anytime you play against somebody you look up to, you want to go out and have a good game. And all of us we're always supportive of what the other person is trying to accomplish. And so we threw the ball like 20-something times in a row. And all I had to do was block, block, block. And as a running back, nobody likes to just block, block, block. But you understand, like, man, this is my boy. I know it's important to him, but this is what's good for the team also. And so that says a lot about the relationship with all of us. If we had any situation that we needed to try to accomplish something. I remember when Marv was going for the record in catches. We're all getting behind each other. Everybody's getting behind each other, and we're doing it within the game. And that's what made it so cool. If I had an incentive, I'd let Peyton know, look, I have this incentive, and everybody worked together, but we did it all, within the game, but supporting each other without everybody, making a big deal out of it. It was kind of effortless, and you wouldn't even know it.
It's funny you say that because there's a classic clip of Peyton and Jeff Saturday getting into it on a Monday night game when they went down to the goal line. And all week long in practice, they were going to run it. And they went down there and threw it 3 times in a row. And Jeff got all pissed off at Peyton and said, why did you – Peyton's yelling, you shut up. You just block, I'll call the plays. I mean, but it sort of speaks to that relationship, right? Like all you guys sort of work together, but you could get in each other's faces when you needed to.
Yeah, but I think those are rare occasions right there. And if the play would have worked, nobody would have said anything, So it's one of those things where –
true.
You just have to just go with the flow, but you have to be willing to, you have a team that's not full of yes men, and everybody can talk to each other and they put it behind them and go to work the next day. Nobody's holding grudges with each other. I know Peyton and Jeff have a great relationship, and it's all part of the game, And it's one of those things that you got to embrace and you got to love because they're going to be blow-ups. They're going to be times where people get into it, and I've seen it. I've never been a part of none of that, but I've seen it, But it's about what are we trying to do here?
Well, that's interesting because what the Colts were trying to do was win it all. And you guys had a lot of success in the regular season, but it took a while for the Colts to figure out how to win in the postseason. What was that process like? Because there were people that were saying all these things about the Colts and in your era. Well, they can do this indoors, but they can't do it outdoors. There was this stigma of what the Colts could and couldn't do. What was that perception like for you?
Well, I think it was everybody's learning. You're learning on the go. You're learning on the fly. It was a team that had to learn itself. We had to understand ourselves. And when Coach Dungy came in, one thing he did different was once it got to playoff time, we put the pads back on. You have to understand you have to get back in playoff mode. We never used to do that. That was one thing that was different. We had to you get in playoff mode. You have to practice at a certain tempo, practice out in the cold, do the things that's going to happen on that Sunday or on that game day. And it's just a mindset because, you only get one shot in the playoffs. If some team come in there, they're on fire. And I remember my first year, Tennessee Titans came in there.
Yeah.
And we woke up too late. We were the better team. I knew we were the better team. But they came in hard-nosed. They was hitting on another level. They was doing everything at another level. So it took us a while to really catch ourselves. And you run out of time because we're an offensive team. And at some point, we're going to figure it out. But you're going up against a clock. And that's one thing the playoffs teach you. You have to start right now. You can't get in the hole. You got to understand these teams that have to play that wild card or play those teams are coming in, they're already ready, Yeah. And so we found ourselves in that same situation when we went to play against Kansas City Chiefs. They had the top seed, and we went right there and knocked them off because we had been in that situation before. That was their first time getting in that situation. And we went in there with that same mentality. I think we played the week before, and we was already in playoff mode. And we just ran up and down the field against them.
That was the first no punt game in a postseason game. There wasn't a single punt in that game at Arrowhead. It was a show. I think 41-38 might have been the final score. It was crazy. But I always think about those Colts teams, and I think about the 2005 season because everything was working for you guys. Everything was clicking, and then very late in the year you had the tragedy with the death of Tony Dungy's son, and I just think that. I don't think people understood how much that affected the team, right? And no one wants to make excuses, and I understand that. But you guys learned in a really difficult way that football isn't everything, and this season where everything was working for you in football. How did that change that team that year?
Well, I think when you're a close-knit family and your leader is being affected or a leader has something going on, it trickles down. And everybody feels it. When you walk in that building, the day you walk in that building, that's all you hear. This happened, this and that. So everybody's concerned about your team. I mean, they're concerned about the coach. So the organization did a great job of being supportive. Everybody kind of came together, and you start realizing football is not as important as everybody probably make it. And now you're in the midst of that. But that's not the reason you lose the game, but those things right there are indications that, you get off your square a little bit. You're missing this or you're missing that, because now we're in a different space. Coach, coach is going through stuff. He's a great guy. He masks everything. He has that poker face, and you wouldn't never know it. But in these situations, and you put yourself in those shoes, you say, man, dang, that's got to be tough. And that year, I think that's the year we lost to Pittsburgh. And
21-18.
And the reason I always look back and say the reason we lost to Pittsburgh, because we played them before. And I think we had our way with Pittsburgh the first time.
Oh, you beat them up pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if we took it as serious as we need, or they came in they came in at another level. It's like we've already been there before, so we kind of know what we're gonna do. But they played at another level. They played at another tempo, which went into the playoffs. And the good teams, they've been to playoffs before. Pittsburgh's been there, and they know at playoff time you turn it up. And we ran out of time. That's all you can say. We ran out of time because they came in playing some good ball. They were real aggressive, and they made some good plays.
Well, the end of that game was nuts. I mean, Jerome Bettis is going in for what will be the game-clinching score. He fumbles. He never fumbles. Nick Harper picks up the fumble. It looks like he might run it back for a touchdown, and Ben Roethlisberger somehow tackles him. And that, of course, was the week that Nick got stabbed in the leg by his wife. I always wanted to say, maybe if he didn't get stabbed, he might have missed Ben Roethlisberger's tackle. That game was crazy.
Yeah, it was a crazy game, but man, those are the best games. The crazy games are the good games. They're fun. They're memorable, and you just wish that you was on the other end of the score.
Yeah, and then you get down there and there's a chance to kick a field goal to send it into overtime. And Vanderjagt, who I think at that time was the most accurate kicker in NFL history, he missed it by a mile. Like, that thing barely stayed in the stadium. And that was your last game as an Indianapolis Colt. Did you have any idea that was going to be your last game? And how did that happen?
Well, I knew going into that season, because of the salary cap and the business side of the NFL, it's going to be tough to retain everybody, And for myself, I wasn't really tripping because, I did everything I'm supposed to do. And I've always lived by principles of not worrying about things I can't control. I made sure I put myself in the best position possible. So, it's just football, and it's part of the business. I don't think nobody should be surprised when change knocks on the door. And it was just the time to, within the salary cap in the system, So it wasn't something that surprised me or anybody that was close to me. Like, we knew how this thing go.
Yeah. What was it like playing with Peyton and the rivalry with Brady and the Patriots? Like, how real was that for you guys? Because that's what everyone talked about whenever the Colts and the Patriots played, this rivalry between the two. And it always felt like the Patriots had that upper hand. There were the two playoff games up at Foxborough, won the AFC Championship game, and then that one weird game where it just snowed the entire time, and it only snowed in Foxborough. I was literally at that game, and like 2 minutes away from Foxborough, there was no snow on the ground. It literally just snowed on the stadium that day. It was crazy.
Well, that was a great rivalry. That was a great matchup, and I think everybody built on each other. I think if you start looking at both teams, everybody took a little bit from each other. Like, because we're the first team to start the no huddle. We didn't even go in the huddle. The next thing you know, you see the Patriots doing the same thing, and everybody kind of learned from each other. Those were tough games, and that's where the regular season became more important than normal, because you don't want to have to go to Foxborough because you have to play in those elements. You don't want to have to end up going up there, but whoever has the best record is going to end up being the host, and it made the regular season more interesting. But as far as the rivalry, I think you knew you was going to get a good game out of them. And I know, like, we knew when we go up there, we're going to move up and down the field, But it's just a matter of getting in that end zone. They were real detailed and tough when it came down to shrinking in the field. And they did a great job on that. And they actually taught us a lot about it ourselves, the way they would, the way they would scheme up some packages and mix up their blitzes, which would take the running back out of the pass passing game, which enabled them to double another receiver. So they came up with some good stuff at times, but then we had to figure it out. And as you figure those things out, now you have the upper hand. So it was like a great chess match, and it's ongoing every time.
So again, the 2005, that playoff game was your last game as a Colt. And then in 2006, you signed with Arizona. And the Cardinals got off to a great start that year. And you guys had another crazy game, that Monday night game against Chicago, where the Bears came storming back. I don't think they had an offensive touchdown in that game, and they still found a way to win it. That was a crazy game.
Yeah, that was crazy. But that's the thing about football. You never know what's going to happen. And the momentum started swinging in their favor, and we just didn't get it done, But we were a team that was just coming together, learning ourselves. I went to Arizona, knowingly that doesn't have the best offensive line. A lot of things are missing. Usually people don't have success, but I wasn't really tripping on that. I'm like, I did my homework. I know that this team has a chance to be good. That's one thing I always hang my hat on. I say, man, look, nobody's seen the potential in the Arizona Cardinals. And I go there and I make it to the Super Bowl with the Arizona Cardinals. We turn the franchise around. And, it makes me say, you know what, I told y'all I was right. I told y'all I was right about this place. They have all the pieces. And I'm just happy that I was part of turning two franchises around in the NFL.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, did it sting at all like the year after you left? The Colts finally went to the Super Bowl, and then they run past Chicago, and they ran for 200 yards in that Super Bowl win, Super Bowl 41 over the Bears.
Nah, for me, if you know me, you know my personality. I'm not tripping on any of that stuff. I'm a business person, I could have stayed to the Colts if I was going to take less, if I wasn't going to do what's best for me. And I think when I look back on it, I'm so glad that I made the decision. It made me evolve as a person, But, I was still a part of that team in a sense. I was on the phone with them. That's all I knew. The Colts were, the Colts were my birth family. And so when it came to when they drafted Joseph Adai, I made sure me and Joseph got on the phone. I taught him everything I could and let him know, hey, anything you need to know how to run this offense, I'm here to help you. And I was always a part of that. And when the Super Bowl was actually in Miami, so I host a lot of the guys. I was there, all a part of the whole process, and it was a cool thing. You're happy for your brothers. You're happy for your family. You have to take yourself out of the equation. And I've always taken myself out of the equation because I did what was best for me. And ultimately, the owner of the Colts, our relationship remained intact, and he actually gave me a Super Bowl ring, which was a great gesture, to show you how close I was to that team.
That's really cool. That had to mean a lot to you, right?
Yeah, it means a lot because a lot of times these franchises, you're just a guy and you're moving on. But when you're part of something, you're part of that family, and people really understand, like, hey, you helped build this thing, because this wasn't no overnight success. We built that organization. We built that thing up brick by brick, year in, year out. We continued to improve, and we gave the city something that they never seen, or something they probably would have never seen if we don't do it the way we do it.
Now, I think I know the answer to this question based on your personality, but when you finished playing, where was the Hall of Fame for you? Was that something you even thought about, or you were like, hey, if it happens, it happens?
Now, I've always wanted to get in the Hall of Fame. During my career, I've charted every year, every game. I knew about every player in the position. I knew of every Hall of Famer at my position. So I knew I was on the path, and I knew I had what it takes. But then my last year in Arizona, I kind of clashed with the coach, and then I have personal things that I have to deal with. My kid's mom ended up passing, so I have to deal with all those personal things, to where football became secondary. And that's where you start looking at, hey, did I do enough? And I know I did enough. Numerically, I've done enough. I'm only so many yards from this person. I can stick around and try to pad my stats and do things to solidify my position or my stance as a Hall of Fame player. But I'm like, nah, family's more important. It's more important for me to walk away from the game, even though I know I could have played probably 2 more years. I probably could have gave a decent 2 years. But those are the things that make you most proud, that you say, hey, I was able to put myself second, and walk away from the game because I know there's something more important to take care of or to deal with. And the Hall of Fame, it's gonna come. It's just not gonna come as fast as a lot of players would have liked. But for me, it came at the perfect timing. It came in the city of Miami. More mature. I've grown. I understand the game. I understand life a whole lot more. And so that worked out the way it's supposed to work out. If it would have happened sooner, I probably wouldn't have appreciated it as much.
What did it mean when you finally got the knock and said, hey, congratulations?
Once you get in, you start understanding, okay, yeah, my work was really worth it. We accomplished our goal. We set out to be one of those guys. From the beginning, I've always said I wanted to leave my mark. I wanted to be one of the best to ever play the game. Not in no particular order. I just want to make sure that everybody know that Edgerrin James was here. And I did what it takes. And the committee or the people in the Hall of Fame acknowledging that they agree also.
Yeah. Well, listen, the first triplets were the Cowboys triplets, Aikman, Irvin, and Emmett. You guys were the second triplets. What does it mean to have sort of that nickname attached to what you guys were able to accomplish? I mean, when you get a nickname like that, it sort of puts you on a different level of what the three of you, and I get it, there were many other players that were involved, but those were the three people that so many people associate with that offense of the Colts.
I just think anytime you're in the conversation with the greats, you're doing something right. You're putting up numbers. I don't think there's three players in the history of the game that's put up as many numbers as the three of us. And I think you can probably go fact check if you want, but I don't think it's going to be tough to find three guys. Three guys that had the numbers that we put up, no matter what, and to be named amongst the great, that says a lot, and it gives the younger generation something to shoot for. But for us, we did what we were supposed to do, and to know that no other three guys have put up numbers like we have, that says a lot within itself, because we did our job. We did what we were supposed to do. We came together. We moved that ball up and down the field, with ease, and it's documented.
Yeah, it was poetry at times to watch that offense run. But, of course, football's just a part of your life now, and it's a former part of your life. And as you have stated here, you got to find a way to keep yourself busy all the time. So why don't we take our second break? When we come back with Hall of Famer Edgerrin James, we'll talk about his book, one of the greatest titles of all time, and the other things that he's up to now in his post-playing career. Stay with us.
Welcome to our newest weekly segment, Trey's Trends, presented for the people by Caesars Sportsbook. Look, Caesars Sportsbook is the greatest betting app of all time. Why? Because Caesars makes everyone feel like an emperor. When you place your bets, win or lose, you earn more with Caesars Rewards. Dining, getaways, stays, so many perks, people. You see, let me explain what that means. In our world, Caesar isn't the only emperor. You see, there's no apostrophe in that spelling. Why is that? Because everyone who downloads the app will be treated like an emperor. We are all Caesars. Caesars Sportsbook is the only sportsbook app with Caesars Rewards, which means win or lose, you earn reward credits every time you wager. Redeem them for things like sports tickets, dining, getaways, and so much more. Presented for the people by Caesars Sportsbook.
Guys, the NBA's regular season is now officially in the books. We turn our attention to the postseason. At Caesars Sportsbook, the Phoenix Suns are the favorites to emerge as NBA champs, holding the Larry O'Brien Trophy at plus 270. The Suns are looking for their first title in franchise history and completed the regular season with a league best record of 64-18. The reigning champion Bucks have the second lowest odds at plus 475 as they're looking to become the first team to repeat as NBA champs since the Golden State Warriors did it in 2017 and 2018. Right behind those teams are the New Jersey Nets at 650, but they will need to clear the play-in tournament to make the playoffs. The Nets last won a title in 1976 where they were in the old ABA, and some guy named Dr. J was the team's 25-year-old superstar. Only two other clubs are at plus 1,000 or better to win it all, the Warriors at plus 950 and the Celtics at plus 1,000. Find more of Trey's Trends at Caesar Sports on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and on YouTube.
21 or older, 18 or older in D.C. must be physically present in Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, Maryland, Michigan, Nevada, New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, or Washington, D.C. Sports betting is void in Georgia, Hawaii, Ohio, and Utah, and other states where prohibited. Know when to stop before you start. Gambling problem in Illinois, Maryland, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, West Virginia. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, crisis counseling and referral services can be accessed by calling 1-800-GAMBLER. That's 1-800-426-2537. Or in West Virginia, visit 1-800-GAMBLER.net. Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. Colorado, DC, Nevada, call 1-800-522-4700. Indiana, call 1-800-9-WITH-IT. Iowa, call 1-800-BETS-OFF. Louisiana, call 1-877-770-STOP. In Michigan, call 1-800-270-7117. Tennessee, call or text TN Redline at 1-800-889-9789. Virginia, call 1-888-532-3500. Copyright 2002, Caesars Entertainment. Gambling problem in New York? Call 1-877-8-HOPE-NEW YORK or text HOPE New York 467-369.
All right, back with Hall of Famer Edgerrin James, who has a book out now called, the title is From Gold Teeth to Gold Jacket, which again, that's just a perfect title to explaining your journey with the grill and then the gold jacket you get at Canton. What was the motivation for writing the book?
It was the Hall of Fame. That was the closure. That right there what made the book complete. The book wouldn't have been complete without the gold jacket, because everybody's on this journey. And this journey as a football player, it starts at some point, but it also ends. And my journey, it ended the right way. It ended where you would have wanted it as a player. Of course you would want to win all these Super Bowls and have all these things, but individually, as a player, you want to be able to put on that gold jacket. And that's what made the book so significant, because, I did it the hard way. I didn't have all the fanfare. Remember, I came in, I wasn't the popular pick as a draft. I mean, in the NFL draft, I wasn't a popular pick. And then the way I did my stuff, I went to work, and then I ended up, making the decision to go to Arizona. All those things right there are part of the journey. It wasn't no easy path. It wasn't something that you can just say, oh, if you do this, you're going to get this. No, there's so many other elements to it. And in the book, I try to describe what it's like to start out in a space of unknown and kind of having to figure out things on your own. And as you learn, you pick up, it's like you're putting the pieces together. And that book puts the pieces together. And ultimately, you still end up where you wanted to go. It's like some guys, they ride on the interstate, and some people have to ride on the back streets. I had to ride on the back streets to get where I got, And sometimes it takes a little bit longer. The roads are smaller. There's traffic lights. There's so many things that'll stop you, or so many things that'll kind of slow you down. But for me, it's the constant, persistent, just going at it and understanding the mission. And I was able to accomplish the mission.
Well, it's interesting because, if people would look at you, like you said, with the gold teeth coming from you, they think you'd be all the flash. But you're really about the substance. And I just get the sense that everything in your life is about putting in the work to get the results that you want.
You have to. I was never given anything, so I don't know any other way. I never walked in a space and there was somebody gave me something. And so I grew up with the expectation. If you want something, you got to work for it. If you have to take it, you have to sit up here and identify it and say, this is what I want, and I'm willing to do what it takes. And a lot of people, they're given things. I can't think of anything that I was ever given. So it was I never had that mindset because I don't know no other way. And I've always taken that approach. And to this day, anything that I want to accomplish, I don't ask for handouts. I go out and identify what it's going to take, and I do what it takes.
You did what it takes for all those years in Indy, and now it seems like there's another star running back there in Jonathan Taylor. What do you see in Jonathan Taylor's game that you like or reminds you of you in any way?
Well, I just think Jonathan Taylor, he's consistent. That's the first thing about being a great football player. To be good, you have to be consistent. And in order to be consistent, you have to take good care of your body. You have to be in tune with the game. You have to know that people are going to try to stop you. You have to know that people know you, but what are you going to do? And so that guy is doing what it takes. And hopefully he continues to build on it. My conversation with him has always been, hey, you're having a great season, but let's continue to work. Let's continue to take care of our bodies because it's very important. the running back position only has so many hits in them. And you can extend your career or you can shorten your career depending on how you take care of your body. And if you take care of your body the right way, you can extend it. And that's what I hope that he does. And that's the thing that would be great for him and any other back that's out there. I like watching the guy play. And the fact that he can hit the big run, you understand this game. This game is one mistake. If the defense make one mistake, you hit the big run. And a lot of times the way the game is set up, it's misleading because you can have 100 yards, but you don't affect the game because all it takes is one big run. So you want to make sure you're able to answer the bell at the right time. And if you looked at him throughout this year, he answered the bell at the right time. He closed some games out when they knew he was getting the ball. So those are great signs.
Is there one running back that you watch now that reminds you of the way you played more than anybody else in the league?
Well, if I have to say a comparison with the pad level and the aggressiveness, I watch Zeke. When I watch Zeke, he plays downhill. He plays aggressive. He finishes runs strong. You know, that was the guy that I see that says, you know what, he understands the pad level. He understands that he's the aggressor. So if I had to say one that I watch now that ran with that forward lean, that finishes strong, I would probably say it's him.
Yeah, and he, like you, was a willing participant in the blocking part of football, right? That's a thing that a lot of running backs don't necessarily take to heart, but Zeke took it to heart or takes it to heart, and you absolutely took it to heart.
I had no choice. You know, at the University of Miami, you have to block. If you can't block, you can't play. So once you understand, you know, the rules or the job requirements, now you got to say, okay, do I really want to play this position? Do I really want to be on this field? And if I want to be on this field, I'm going to be the best at whatever I'm doing. So I took blocking and say, you know what, I'm going to make sure that I'm one of the best blockers all time, and nobody can dispute it. You know, I'm going to protect this quarterback as best I can. I'm going to stand in the paint, and I don't care how big the defender is, I'm going to do my job. So I learned all the techniques. I learned everything that it took to become a great blocker to make sure that I'm able to do my job. I don't want this guy that this team is paying all this money or we're depending on to take a hit or end up being injured for the season because I couldn't get my guy. And I wanted to make sure I did that, and I did it consistently. And it was something that I took pride in it because I know playing in these offenses, if they're gonna pass the ball, you know, they're dependent on us, and we have to do our part.
20 years from now, some guy stumbles across highlights of Edgerrin James on YouTube or whatever platform we'll have in 20 years from now. What's the first thing you would want someone like that to know about the way you played the game?
I played the game the way it's supposed to be played. You know, I didn't make excuses. You know, I didn't sit up there and look for somebody to say, oh, well, this is a foul, or they're doing this, or they're doing that. I took whatever came my way, I took it as a challenge, and I did what it was supposed to do. So I played the game it was supposed to play, a real gladiator, a real warrior. You know, when you see Edgerrin James out there, you're looking at a real warrior that's not making no excuses and not afraid to go against anybody. I haven't seen anybody on the field that intimidated me or that I wasn't willing to run into or block or do whatever I had to do. So when you see somebody like myself, you know, you're going to say, man, this guy right here was a true gladiator. And he did what it takes, and he put his body on the line for real, you know.
Yeah, and that's how you end up with a gold jacket. And again, the
Absolutely.
book is out there now, From Gold Teeth to Gold Jacket, the Edgerrin James story and his run through the NFL. Edge, it was a pleasure to watch you play all those years. I was always a big fan, so I appreciate you taking the time and being with us today. It meant a lot. Thank you.
All right, thanks for having me, man. And anytime you need me, I'm not far away.
So once again, thanks to Hall of Famer Edgerrin James for joining us, and check out his book. Again, one of the greatest titles ever, From Gold Teeth to Gold Jacket. It's available wherever you can buy your books. So we got big things coming. I don't want to give too much away, but let's just say with the draft approaching, we're going to have a smorgasbord of episodes around the NFL draft, which of course will be in Vegas this year. And the guests that we have lined up, chef's kiss good. I don't want to give too much away, but trust me, you'll be entertained with a lot of the special extra episodes we'll be running the week of the NFL draft. We'll see you then.